Hello and welcome to the CPG Marketer, where we chat up high-level marketing executives on all things CPG marketing, including wellness, better for you, and natural products. I'm your host, Ricardo Baca, and I'm a longtime journalist, activist, and the founder of Grasslands, a wellness-focused PR and marketing agency. I've been interviewing experts, trendsetters, executives for more than 3 years now. And with this new show, I'm focusing on speaking with the brightest minds in CPG marketing, which brings me to my guest today, as I'm joined by Kristel Corson, a marketer with 30 plus years of experience across diverse brands, including Cliff Bar, Yes2, Jamba Juice, and her current position at organic wellness brand Traditional Medicinals. Some of my favorite tea. Kristel, thanks so much for joining us at the CPG Marketer.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I always like to start out with this question, Kristel. A smart marketer once said, the best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. Agree or disagree?
Well, in today's world, I completely agree. I think consumers right now are looking for authenticity, transparency. Clearly, there's so much going on in the world and they're being fed so much information. It's really trying to discern, what brands are really telling them the truth and, what can they sort of believe in as they are thinking about buying a product. So I completely agree.
Yeah, and gosh, it is kind of a task trying to dodge that myriad, this gateway, this maze of claims, right? I was in Whole Foods up in the mountains this weekend, and I just was like reminded at how overwhelming it can be to be a consumer in this, like, walking down a Whole Foods or a Sprouts aisle these days, because not everything you read on these packages can be taken at face level.
Well, exactly. And today, as I work at Traditional Medicinals, we are at heart a medicinal herb company. We sell most of our products within the vehicle of tea, but as we go to market them, talk to consumers about them, we really have to be clear in what we're saying our products do. Teas like ours, true medicinal teas, are actually dietary supplements. And so they are monitored by the FDA. And therefore, we have to be very careful. And we take great pride in that, actually. And, the brand is turning 50 years this next year. And one of the things that Traditional Medicinals has built with its consumers is this high trust. And so if we say a tea is going to do something like our peppermint tea, very simple, one ingredient peppermint, but it will help with your digestion. And, people really have, leaned on Traditional Medicinals over the years for products just like that.
And y'all have such a great reputation for a reason. Congrats on 50 years. You and your team do outstanding work. But Kristel, tell me what you love about your current work. You speak with such passion, but what's one thing you really love about what you do right now?
Well, when I started at Cliff Bar over 20 years ago, they were the first company I had worked for that was what you would call purpose driven. Cliff Bar was one of the first to have a multiple bottom line and really change the trajectory of my career at that point in time. Before then, I really had worked for companies that were really, they wanted to deliver what the product said most of the time, but at the same time, profit was really what was driving them. And through my time at Cliff Bar, and at that time they had 5 multiple bottom lines, and they were each important to really being successful. And since then, I have always tried to work for brands that really don't, put just profit first, that they truly have a mission or a purpose to do that. And Traditional Medicinals, I would say, is probably the most authentic, really has shown it decade after decade that they lead with purpose around social good issues, such as the sourcing within their community, the communities that they get their herbs. It's front and center, and everything that, we purchase, we try to ensure that it is under some sort of fair certification, whether it be the actual fair trade or something that's newer that's called Fair for Life. One of the reasons the brand got started was really this passion for wanting to keep medicinal herbs and plants alive in modern technology. With the onset of pharma and so many, drugs that can be created in the lab, one could easily see how, people would be kind of questioning at this day. But medicinal herbs have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and the traditions behind them and their medicinal properties have been passed on through herbalists. And, Traditional Medicinals is a company that is rooted in this plant medicine and has multiple herbalists on board, and really has been working hard to continue that education and show people that you really can sort of work on everyday elements as well as a sore throat, for instance, with medicinal plants.
And Kristel, as a human being with an indigenous bloodline, I really resonate with this line of thinking, because of course we've been getting our medicine and our wellness from herbs and plants for millennia. And I love this modern continuation. We're not doing anything new. We're doing what so many indigenous communities have done throughout the years. And what y'all do is just head and shoulders above what is done by most companies, especially given that attention to the bottom line and the people, and of course the product. But Kristel, what part of CPG marketing do CPG marketers usually get wrong, in your opinion?
Boy, get wrong. Well, I think, for me, the key to sort of unlock good marketing, so to speak, has really been you need to keep your consumer at the forefront. And sometimes I think brands, especially ones that maybe have been around, want to rest on the laurels that made them successful, or continue to sort of, at some point, a lot of brands who have been around and are successful are kind of cash cows. But to truly stay relevant throughout the times and the decades, you need to stay in touch with your consumers, and quite frankly, your evolving consumers. Unless you are a specific product for, I guess I can't even imagine what would be the situation, because, we all evolve and we are evolving, and it's happening faster and faster, as we all know, with things like AI and what's going on. And so keeping your consumers at the forefront, knowing exactly who is that core consumer for your product, and ensuring that you are, changing your messaging and or tweaking it to be able to make sure they're understanding who you are, what you stand for, and what your product does, is paramount. And it's a very simple thing that I think, a lot of people at times kind of lose sight of.
Yeah, I very much agree, especially as quickly as technology and community is modifying and updating every day. It's very easy to get left behind, especially because I know a lot of marketers who are just flat out intimidated by AI. They're ignoring it simply because, hey, that's not our style. We're more bespoke. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you can use it and still be bespoke, but it throws a wrench into things considerably.
Well, I'm not going to lie. It's still challenging me a bit, and we are trying to figure it out. But yes, you have to embrace, everything that's kind of going on in the world in order to stay present. And like I said, I think that relevancy is really the most important.
Well, speaking of relevance, I'd love to hear about perhaps one of the biggest marketing wins of your career, Kristel, especially lots of brand names in there we're familiar with. We were just talking before recording that I had some friends at Yes To back in the day, and love the work that y'all did with that launch and with that brand. But can you share maybe one of the most memorable marketing wins of your career?
Well, one of the brands you actually didn't mention that I worked for right before Traditional Medicinals is a company called Clover Sonoma. And Clover Sonoma is a dairy brand, one that has actually been around for over 100 years, primarily here in Northern California. And when I went to work for them, they were not called Clover Sonoma, actually. They were Clover Stornetta Farms. They had a line called Clover Organic Farms. And if you come across California, you will probably actually remember seeing someone called Clo on our billboards in and around kind of the wine country. But Clover was always standing for good quality dairy. They were one of the first to actually get American Humane certified because they always put animal welfare at the front. And so an extremely strong brand that had over 50% market share already in California when I came in. However, they were two brands, they had never been refreshed, and the third generation owner was really looking to take them national. And so, took on the challenge, really did a lot of consumer insights to understand why does this brand resonate so much with sort of the California lifestyle. And it really came to those aspects that I talked about, which were the quality, the care for the animals, the care for the farms. And so one of the first things we did was change the name and unite it under this name, Clover Sonoma. And it was really important because Clover connected it to its original roots, but Sonoma opened up so that people could really, in their minds, think about where this place was from. And one of the best places on earth that we used to say, there was for cows was in Sonoma County, because the weather is obviously very good. We always talk about happy cows coming from California. However, because we are near the coast, the cool air comes in pretty much every evening and sort of cools it down. And so cows just produce better quality milk when they're not stressed. And so really took this brand on a journey. It had been a classic dairy brand with the classic fluid and products that you would expect from a dairy brand: milk, cream, butter, eggs. Took them through the rebrand, brought it to Clover Sonoma, but then really put them on a path of innovation, which was something that really wasn't done as much in the dairy industry, quite frankly. And so, we worked towards really trying to move them from this values-based regional brand to a national CPG brand. And one of the things that really helped accomplish that was creating a product called Moon Milks. And Moon Milks was this concept of bringing Ayurvedic properties and sort of, the spices and the herbs that are found there into milk, and creating a new, really more an adult focused flavored milk. And so we had the Golden Moon, which had turmeric in it. We had the Blue Moon, which was with butterfly pea flower. And then we had the Pink Moon. And so these were really different and helped Clover Sonoma gain national distribution with Whole Foods and eventually with Sprouts, and really was able to help open it up. And so most proud, I would say, of that rebrand in total for Clover and Clover Sonoma. But really that product line that really helped break it national. When you're marketing for so many years, new products and new product innovation is something that is, you love and is key to building a brand. And so, being able to do that was something that really excited me.
I love the story. It is such a beautiful and meaningful win, and it ties me directly back to this weekend. I was in the mountains with some friends, and one of our friends, he's older than us, and he lets us know lots of jokes about his age, but he shows up to the condo and unleashes all the stuff. We have all the goodies that we've brought, the deliciousness, and one of the things he drops on the middle of the table is a plastic Ziploc bag full of Werther's Originals. And there are the classic hard candies in there, but there's also this new form factor that's like a Tootsie Roll. It's a chewable
Mm.
Werther's. And we had this exact conversation about how does a heritage brand modernize its product format to a modern audience and give different entry points to it. But it seems like y'all did that. I love the idea of a turmeric milk. Which of those SKUs was most popular around launch? Do you remember?
Well, I would say, sort of from a national standpoint, the Blue Moon probably was the most popular. But interestingly, here in California, it was really that golden milk. A golden milk is something that is an old Ayurvedic tradition that many Indian and Asian populations take part in even today. And so it was so true. We got a lot of comments and emails around, I don't have to spend the hours, creating my own golden milk. Clover Sonoma was able to sort of deliver that by just warming it up. So yeah, it was a great product. And that was my favorite because it would, work well in a tea or a coffee. It was something that you could really use multiple ways as well.
Oh, how cool. Thank you for sharing that. And now I want to
Yeah.
flip it on the other side, because I've had times that I find that I've learned more than from my failures than I do my successes. And so, was there a memorable marketing fail in your career that stands out? What happened? How did it happen? How did it impact you? What did you learn from it?
So the first 10 years of my career, I was actually in the toy industry. And being in the toy industry is a ton of fun. You get to sort of relive the classics of things like your Easy Bake Oven, but then there are lots of new toys every year. When I was in the toy industry, people may remember a Tamagotchi, right? That was one of the biggest, most successful full toys out there at the time. We launched a product called Sound Bites, and the concept behind Sound Bites was it was a lollipop, but when you put the lollipop in your mouth and touched it to your teeth, you would hear sounds and music in your head that would be audible inside of your head, but nobody else could hear it. Sounds like a really neat trick, right? It falls on this. I think it was a technology, dentamandibular. I can't pronounce it, but anyways, it was a real thing, and it was an inventor item that Hasbro bought, and so we had big money behind us to launch it, and it was cool. We had these graphics that would like open up the kid's head, and then sounds and music would come on out of it, and then it'd close back up again. It was seemingly to be something that should have really taken off, especially with the TV commercials we put behind it and all of that. Um, Hence, the reason that I'm answering as one of the biggest failures was because it was just that. And in hindsight, I think it really comes down to it was a one trick pony. It was not necessarily this technology that really could go beyond the cool factor of the single one off. So, yeah, it was sort of fun to suck on a lollipop and play with it. But once you did it, it wasn't really about sharing. It wasn't, I mean, there were just kind of, again, in hindsight, lots of things that really showed that this one trick pony was not going to be something that truly could be extendable. But at the time, a great inventor, a great sales job, and all of the above really, got a lot of people to believe that it would be because it was such cool new technology, but it really wasn't a sticky technology.
Yeah, I could see it kind of lacked that social appeal of the Tamagotchi and the other kinds of things that were around at the time. That must have been. And do you think it was like more of the product fail, or was it more of the marketing of the product, or just straight up product market fit?
I mean, I don't think it really was the marketing because, again, the core essence of what reason I think it was a failure was the one trick pony. And we did really spend lots of time trying to figure out what could be a cool way to add that social. We created prototypes of having a recording version of where you could record something and then, give the lollipop, and then that person could only hear the secret, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
But it still just, it never really was something that kids got excited about. I think the adults got more excited, right? And that's why the failure level goes higher, because one, the inventor sold it to the company. So there's a big investment, which led to a big investment in commercials and that side of it, which, led to it getting good retail distribution. So, the size of a failure is kind of when really kind of have the opportunity, I think, to have a big success. There was a lot of inventory left over, a lot of closeout, that side of it. So, um, but because of that, I really do think a lot more about the stickiness and, will a product beyond the initial wow continue to be part of somebody's life, and something that, they really want to continue to interact with.
Uh, and as a marketer, I definitely love that word stickiness. We throw that around here a lot at Grasslands, and yeah, it really steers the conversation as it should. But Kristel, this part of the show where we call quick hits, I'm gonna run through various elements of your current marketing strategy, and you're gonna give me some ratings. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is least important, 10 is most. Offer a brief explanation of why if you want, but this is really like, how important is blank to your current marketing strategy at Traditional Medicinals? We'll start with paid media. Where does that fall in the 1 to 10 range, and why?
For me, it falls pretty high, number 7, because we are a small brand, and we don't, when we are investing in actual media, it's, this is one of the ways that we know we can, drive traffic to our website. It helps us have, ways to measure the success of the campaigns, and really helps us bring in new to brand customers. And so, yeah, it's pretty high on our list of things that we do.
Outstanding. I know there's a little bit of overlap between paid and content creators, but what about content creators? 1 to 10.
Well, for traditional medicinals, content creators, again, are pretty high. I'd give them a 7 or 8. And I'd say that the main reason is, in order to really get people to understand and believe in medicinal herbs, a lot of times, beyond just hearing what the benefits are from us, we need to find people that are authentic and can educate others and their followings on medicinal herbs and the plants. So we use quite a few influencers, as we call them, to be able to help share the message uh, for what we're trying to, whatever, product we're trying to educate on. So very high.
And a quick follow-up there, is it more important for those influencer partners to have a scientific or nutritionist, herbalist background, or is it more important that they're relatable to the target audience and they're maybe more of a fitness lifestyle influencer?
I'd say it's really both. The perfect fit is, an herbalist who has a large following and also, has created their own sort of brand, and can bring that lifestyle side into it. I'd say that's really kind of the perfect fit. But we use both, just because, again, trying to connect with different audiences. I'll give you an example. We have a product called Mother's Milk. It is a tea that helps moms with their lactation, when they're breastfeeding. And so, while at times it's really great to have, an expert, whether that's a nutritionist or a lactation specialist or somebody going and talk about it, but many a times, we just really want real moms to talk about, why the product has worked for them, or what they, enjoy about it. And many a times those are more lifestyle content creator moms.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What about strategic partnerships on a scale of 1 to 10, Kristel?
Strategic partnerships, ideally, they're very big. When you are a smaller company, sometimes it's harder to kind of get some of those bigger strategic partnerships. But I'll give you another example. we have a tea called Throat Coat. Throat Coat is a tea that helps soothe you when you have a sore throat. That's what the primary, I'd say, use and why people know. The throat coat is one of the biggest secrets out there, or not so much because we're telling the world, for singers. Not just singers, but podcast people or broadcasters, anybody who needs their throat in good condition to get on stage, or even a teacher. But let's stay with throat coat for singers. And so for years, many have been talking about us and really put it out there. We actually went and found one of those last year, Dave Matthews, and really developed a strategic partnership around him being a genuine throat coat user, but also the way that it worked for us is we couldn't really pay him, what normal people would pay, but we had a strategic common goal in that around Appalachia and trying to bring out, this is where slippery elm, the key ingredient in throat coat, is harvested, and he has a great love for Appalachia and the farmers out there. And so we created a strategic partnership to really share about throat coat, but also around the nonprofit that we work with in Appalachia to keep this growing region alive and slippery elm being harvested sustainably. So strategic partnerships can really help for a brand that is smaller, like Traditional Medicinals, to help gain that larger awareness. But a lot of times for small brands, it's trying to find that right fit because, we can't always afford them.
I love it. And, we were chatting before the taping, and I was a journalist for 24 years. 9 of those years, I was a music critic. So I was a rock and roll writer. I spent a lot of time backstage, saw a lot of artists crossing the spectrum from folk to metal, drinking their tea backstage before going on or after coming off. I mean, that is their instrument, right? And they have to protect it. And more than a few of them were drinking throat coat. So I really appreciate you sharing that. It's strategic partnerships aren't always dependent on a massive budget or partnering with a multinational company with the right creativity. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of knowledge. Oh, damn, Dave, you're a fan? Let's talk. Everybody likes doing well by doing good, and how great that y'all were able to partner and have this benefit an existing nonprofit partner of the brands already.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, beneficial for us. And I think, Dave Matthews, but again, he's just was a longtime supporter of the tea and the area.
Well, props, Dave. He did pretty great. I saw him at the Dead show at Folsom Field in Boulder last summer. He came out and was a special guest on night 3. But going back to quick hits, what about earned media on a scale of 1 to 10 for your current marketing strategy at Traditional Medicinals?
Yeah, it's still very important. PR in general, is important for us, and earned media is a large part of that. And so as we get our story out there, we love getting earned media and that side of it. So definitely high on the list. Not something I would, do without.
And what about affiliate marketing? I know you were talking earlier about some of these transitions and the modernization of marketing, and this is certainly one of those that's popped up and has become ubiquitous in the last decade. But how does affiliate play into your strategy?
Well, it's interesting. Just what you said. It's something new to us. As PR has evolved, and it's harder for a lot of these publications, to get advertisers because the way that things work now, there's just not enough time to do that. And so affiliate marketing has become a major way as part of your PR sort of toolbook to go out there and pitch to one of these lists or one of these magazines that put things out there, because then they can get that percent when it hits. And so, yeah, I don't know how large it will sort of become, mostly because, we're not a huge online outside of Amazon. We're not like, for our direct to consumer sales, it's just at the price point and such. We do more of our sales through brick and mortar and through kind of, e-commerce. But yeah, we're definitely have gotten a partner and we're testing it and trying to figure it out. So I can't give it a really high level right now, but it's a perfect example of one of those things that, you need to understand and give a try and see if it's right for your media mix in today's world.
Love it. Yeah, and you're right. It's weird that affiliate marketing is definitely in that paid category, but because the end product so much resembles the end product of earned, that it is kind of straddling the two. And speaking of, sponsored content is kind of the same, but is that important to your current marketing strategy?
Well, again, earned is what you want, right? So that's really important. Getting on these lists and doing different things to keep you out in pop culture, which affiliate kind of gets to. Sponsored content is something we have used, and for the right reasons. I think it's very good. We're doing a new product launch, and one of the products that we're launching is a line of teas called Stress Ease. And they're made with adaptogens, and each one sort of has a special benefit. One is a focus tea, and so it has ginseng in it that helps you get that focus. And we have another one that's called Immune, and it has reishi mushroom in there to sort of help with your daily immunity, because when you're stressed, a lot of times your immune system goes down. And this is a classic case of a product that is definitely, on trend, right for what people need today. No, everybody needs more focus and a better immune system, but a lot of people still don't understand adaptogens. And so we are using certain specific sponsored content sort of, in the right halo of where a story would come up about stress and adaptogens and ways to heal that, and also providing an expert, to be able to talk about it and putting out sponsored content. So again, there's a lot of tools in a, marketing professional's toolbox. And I definitely believe that sponsored content, again, in the right situation and sort of setting, for us, it tends to be that education based, where we're really giving something to the consumer and, helping that the knowledge will sort of increase awareness and obviously lead to conversion. But again, it really is more about that, trying to get the education out there.
Thanks for sharing that. That's always so fun to hear how every different marketer I speak to on the program approaches those different things, and also really great to see a brand like Traditional Medicinals getting into the adaptogen space. It makes so much more sense when you have that deep foundation and background. You just said 5 decades of working with these natural products, these herbs, these great plants and mushrooms growing from the earth. And it makes a lot more sense than a lot of the other brands we're seeing out there now, playing around with adaptogens, entheogens, and so many other functional ingredients, where it's like, okay, you random granola bar company, I'm wondering where your expertise might be in this conversation. Oh, but sure, here's some lion's mane in the granola bar. So I think it makes a lot more sense coming from y'all, and I'm looking forward to seeing the product more. But we're coming up on the end of our interview, Kristel. But before we part ways, I'd love to hand the floor over to you again and ask you if there's a piece of actionable advice that you can offer our viewers, because really you have such a dynamic insight into how do you market market to organic tea consumers, especially in these modern times where there's now D2C only brands killing it on the organic tea front. But I'm curious what your advice to them would be.
Well, it's somewhat similar to a question I answered earlier, but I think, understanding who your true core consumer is where you have to start. And then from there, you can really think about the different ways that you and your brand and the tenets of your brand can connect with that consumer. And from there, that's where you build your sort of marketing mix. You use your different tools. I don't think there is ever a way that, you can just assume that if you do, X, Y, and Z of the different tactics, many of which you just mentioned, and just put them out there, that's going to really, give you success. And so spending the time, even for the smallest brands out there, that maybe don't have the money, really putting their ear to the ground and understanding their consumer. What is the wow factor? Why are, as small as your base may be, especially with social media now, you really have ability to comb through comments, and look for multiple ways to get those insights. And so I just cannot stress enough how important it is. And, don't be shy to ask, people around you in your circle a little bit farther out. Used to really annoy me, some of the best entrepreneurs that I kind of, were around early in my career, of where they would just, I'd present a marketing program or something of that, and then, they went home and asked every neighbor, everybody, and then would bring back the insights. And at the time, I didn't understand they're doing what I'm sort of preaching right now, which is you really, have to understand how both your messaging and your product is hitting with consumers, and then tweak things, right? It is an evolution, and it takes a while for things to really sort of stick. But then that brings me to the second thing, which was another thing somebody, an old mentor of mine, always talked about. When you find that piece that clicks, for Clover Sonoma, it was this concept around it matters where your milk comes from. And we had 4 reasons that we could really answer that question. And, we went out there and worked our marketing program and campaigns around that. Marketers get tired of campaigns long before and/or messaging an actual consumer does. If you really think about how many times you have to say the same thing to a consumer to really get it to be front and center in their mind when they're at the retail or online, you need to spend time really educating and, evolving slightly, but really keeping that main message, I think, for your products and your marketing to work.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but you said that marketers need to figure out that one core thing, or those few core things for that audience they're marketing toward. And on a daily basis, you're coming to work, you're waking up, and you're like, all right, I'm marketing toward people who value organic tea. And what's one of those things that you can share with us about something that you keep in mind every time you're writing a campaign or modifying it or executing it?
Well, within our world, I would say we don't necessarily think of ourselves as a tea company, right? We think of ourselves as an herbal wellness, tool for consumers. And so when I am thinking about the brand, or different ways to connect, it's really, how can I take what Traditional Medicinals has to offer, and what is that connection route to what consumers are feeling or dealing with in today? And, we really try to find ways to bridge that. And so, yeah, I think that's.
And I totally get that. And I appreciate that about y'all, because it's so authentic, that foundation going back 50 years. And I guess zooming out a little bit more even, because of course there's the organic tea, there's the herbal wellness company, but also at the core, you mentioned earlier, Traditional Medicinals is a purpose-driven brand. So what can you share with our viewers about what they should know about marketing to consumers that resonate with purpose-driven messaging and want to put their money where their mouth and their hearts are?
Well, for us, I mean, like you said, most everything we do sort of has a component of that purpose, baked in. And, so a lot of decisions that the executive leadership team makes, we're not thinking about sort of this year and this year's profit. We're thinking on a much longer term journey. And so that's really, I think you really need to know, your whole sort of sourcing and everybody that's kind of involved with your picture from, for us it's the farmers and the people that actually collect the herbs that we put in, all the way through from the people that help process them to package them to us who market them, and all the way to the consumer. And we just really keep that whole chain in our minds as we're making decisions. And it's just a different way, a different sort of lens you have to put on most everything that you do.
And I'm guessing part of that is also paying attention to what the other brands are doing out there, the purely profit-driven brands that are among your competitive set, but also seeing what they're doing and recognizing how you can further make your brand distinct and find that white space.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, definitely, there are competitors and competitors that, you want to differentiate. Um, but in a lot of ways, sometimes you actually need to work with competitors to fight bigger industry stuff. I'll give you an example. Sustainable packaging, right? It's one of the biggest issues, with waste and plastic in in our world. And, we recently launched a compostable overwrap because the overwraps were our biggest footprint of plastic going into the environment. But we had to join a collaborative. We're not a big enough company to get packaging in the industry to really change ways and to necessarily make things that would really help us. And so, yeah, we had to join an industry group, and it's always a little bit nervous, but we worked with a few competitors, and, we have a compostable overwrap, and one of our other competitors now has one, and that's okay, right? Because again, we're stepping forward, as an industry trying to change things. And so, yes, we keep competitors in mind, and competitors lead to a little bit of competitiveness, but there are times, sometimes for these larger social things and environmental issues that sometimes you actually, need to work with some of your competitors to change an actual industry.
Which is such a good point, and I'm glad you bring that up. It definitely reminds me of some work that we at Grasslands did around one of our clients. We work with a great Ayurvedic product company called Banyan Botanicals, and they partnered together in a pre-competitive study and research with a bunch of their direct competitors to study Scope 3 emissions, to learn as an industry what actually is this and how can we tackle it to be a more responsible partner to our various communities. And you're right, it's something they couldn't have done alone, but they can do with that competitive set with their community. And I think it's really valuable and an important thing to keep in mind, especially as we're talking about marketing CPG products. But Kristel, I do want to thank you so much for joining us on the CPG Marketer. And to our viewers, thanks for watching this episode of CPG Marketer, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.